There we go. Mute button is really fighting with me these days as the base is dropped on a Tuesday edition of Soccer Down Here. It's the morning kickoff presented by Kickoff Coffee. Busy day because it's a match day on a Tuesday in Atlanta. Pachuca coming to town in the American Family Insurance Cup. Exciting game for a lot of different reasons. The competitiveness of it, yes, it's a cup. No, it's not the Campeones Cup. But you've got a lot of young players for both teams that are going to be on the field that are going to be trying to make a point. And that can create some fun situations. Gonzalo Pineda talked about it yesterday and said probably two different 11s for this game. Atlanta United has a league match on Sunday. That's what they are focusing on. So you want to get ready for Sunday, but you also don't want to wear people out for Sunday. So balancing act for Gonzalo Pineda. For Pachuca, some players are away on national team duty. It is an opportunity for their very talented young players to get an opportunity to get seen and mix in with the first team. This was a Pachuca team that, look, right now it's not easy to break into because they were the super leader, the regular season champion in the Liga MX Clausura. Lost in the final to Atlas. They scored the most goals in the Clausura season, and they gave up the fewest. That's a pretty freaking good team. So it's not easy for young guys to break in. This is an opportunity for them to get seen. And you've got a very strong group of around 20-year-olds who are trying to break through. If not at Pachuca, they're going to want to get loaned out and get their opportunity elsewhere. So it is an audition for them. It's going to be an audition for some of the Atlanta United players. Very good chance we see some players from Atlanta United 2 and from the Atlanta United Academy, guys who are trying to get noticed for that next step in their career. And it's the same thing. This isn't an easy Atlanta United team to break into. So you have to take your opportunities when they come. This is one. This is a good test for a young player on the field against good competition. What will they make of it? So you're going to have a lot of different subplots tonight. Should be a fun game with two teams that like to attack. I mentioned Pachuca, leading scoring team in Liga MX. Atlanta United, yes, we know they like to go forward. We know they like to commit numbers forward. That might scare some people. They're going to do that. So this should be a fun night of soccer at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Hopefully you can come out. It was pretty cool what the team did with all the different voting things about picking the song to start the second half, all these different things. Pretty good with most of the choices. Very good with the roof being closed today, with it being ridiculously hot this afternoon. I am all for the roof being closed and the air conditioner pumping today. Costa Rica and New Zealand will be hoping the air conditioning is pumping as well in Qatar. They have the final World Cup playoff game at 2 o'clock. After what we saw yesterday, it's a toss-up, and the conditions are going to have an effect. Both of these teams have been there for about a week trying to acclimate. How much can you acclimate to that kind of heat? I don't really truly know. I'm not expecting a high-scoring game between Costa Rica and New Zealand. I like Costa Rica's chances because of Keylor Navas in a tight game, but there is no guarantee they get through after what we saw yesterday, where Peru just did not have it, and Australia held on, and then the dancing goalkeeper comes in the shootout and gets the job done. Lots of rumor and innuendo to get into as well, and we're going to hear from Dylan Butler at 9:30 about MLS news. And we've got a lot with Ronnie Dyla. What's next at New York City? What about Tati Castellanos? What about the rumor front? DC is linked to some rumors. Lots of things happening. Dylan Butler will get us filled in. You guys out there, if you like the coffee and you like Kickoff Coffee, go to their website, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. That'll get you 15% off because you're a Soccer Down Here listener. And a lot of you guys out there who listen to the show have been ordering the coffee, which is awesome. They're going to have to up the production if we keep going with this. This is great. So the other good thing about Kickoff Coffee is 10% of their proceeds go to support soccer-based youth development organizations worldwide. One of their partners is in the Atlanta area, also Ohio, Fuji's. Really cool to be able to give back to an organization like that, and really cool for us to partner with an organization that has soccer for good at the heart of what they do. So kickoffcoffeeco.com, use the code SoccerDownHere15. That'll get you 15% off. And know that your money is going towards soccer for good initiatives worldwide. Let's get the show rolling and see what the rest of the crew is thinking this morning. All right, we got a lot of things to talk about, and Jarrett, we got you for about 20 minutes or so let's jump into it. Atlanta Pachuca tonight. What is the number one thing you are looking forward to seeing on the pitch at Mercedes-Benz Stadium?
Which of the kids get out there and do something? You talked about it being mixed, two different 11s. You don't want to burn everybody out for Inter Miami coming up this weekend. So, yeah, you'll probably see the starters get out there, put on a little bit of a song and dance. They'll have a rehearsed number, have some fun. But then I want to see what that second 11 looks like. Who grabs these opportunities? Because we talk all the time about when you have a roster like this, you're always going to be competing for those minutes. And it might not be starting minutes. You're competing for the depth chart ladder. Who's going to be that first or second guy off the bench? We saw Caleb Wiley grab that spot, especially even playing as an advanced player. No, we understand Caleb Wiley more as a left back from his time with Atlanta United too, but his ability to grab those minutes up on the left side. In a different world, Tyler Wolf, what he's got going on. He got called into the U20s.
Yeah, he's busy.
Yeah, I know, which is a shame because I'd love to see more of him here because it seems like he is well rated. It's just such a busy attacking midfield for him to try and fight through. But guys who might be a little further down on the depth chart, here's a chance for you to get out there and make some noise and draw some eyes and ultimately put on a good show.
Yeah, look, it's just not easy to break through. And when you get these opportunities, whether it's an injury that opens a door or a game like this where a lot of guys are going to get on the field, you can turn some heads really quick. And I would not be surprised, John, if we go back to the twos lineup from the weekend, if we see somebody like Noah Cobb for the first time at the Benz, if we see somebody like Aiden McFadden, some of those guys who didn't get as much time on Saturday, and also some of the guys who did, if you're only going to go 45, you're going to be okay. And it's a big opportunity for some of these players. I think you're going to see a lot of depth, and it's a good opportunity to get noticed to potentially get more time down the road.
Yeah, two of the names that I had written down were Noah Cobb and Aiden McFadden. I had Robbie Mertz written down. I've got Jackson Conway possibly in that second 45 to try to sit there and show the coaches what you have and what you're capable of being for the run here in the stretch. So, yeah, I mean, for me, I'm with Jared. I want to see what that second 45 looks like and the names specifically. And I want to see who comes out the other side and who has impressed. So for me, that's obviously the intrigue for me with all the time that we get to spend with Atlanta United too. That's something that I naturally gravitate toward as well. But, it was a conversation that you had with John Arnold that's up on the network, and you were mentioning the Pachuca names as well in that conversation. And for Pachuca, remember, Pachuca starts their season July 4th. Mm-hmm. So for them, this is getting into that dress rehearsal mode where they're trying to get things as close to getting figured out as you can, because you're 30 days has September, April, June, and November. So 16, you're talking less than 3 weeks.
It's not that simple though, John, because they just finished. So it's a weird flow. Like, I don't know if this is truly dress rehearsal mode because it's not like a normal preseason of 6 weeks. Season was still going for them 6 weeks ago. So it's almost like a maintenance mode. And I mean, you kind of already know what you have and what you're going to deal with, but you don't have all your pieces here. So it's a weird flow for the Mexican teams right now, because when did the final end?
That was
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, about a fortnight back.
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's immediately like a week off, then go play for a week in the U.S., then come back, maybe a couple of days off. Then you're almost straight into prep for game one. So, like, it's not really even a normal flow of like dress rehearsal kind of thing. Like, I don't think they can even think that way. I think it is, all right, you played Saturday in Austin. What do you have? Can you go 45? Can you go 60? Some of the younger guys might have to go 60, and some of the veterans might go more like 30 to 45. It's who's available, who can give you what, and they're going to want to see some of those young guys too. So, yeah, I don't think they're in like prep for the season mode because they're missing guys to national team duty too. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just they're kind of where they are right now. And this is something, and I bring this up because get ready for these kinds of conversations when it comes to Atlanta United and MLS teams next year, because you're going to have a shorter offseason. It hasn't been officially said, and I mean, I don't know how it's not going to be a shorter offseason going forward with a month break for Leagues Cup. That's going to affect the flow of the season. I think a shorter offseason is good, but it changes your way of thinking because you don't have that normal, okay, you take a long break, you come in maybe out of shape, you work your way into shape, and then you're doing the dress rehearsal thing to get ready. I don't think you get into that flow anymore. You know, it's a little bit more of, all right, we're kind of constantly going. We're going to work breaks out for people along the way. And think back to last year when Gonzalo Pineda gave Miles Robinson a week off in the midst of the season because he's dealing with national team. He's just got a lot going on. Okay, give him a break. Let him get fresh. You're going to see more of that sort of thing as opposed to the longer breaks and then ramping back up. I think Pachuca's just basically in season mode, but they're not playing games that count right now, so they can rotate guys and keep guys a little rested and bring the kids in for the guys who are away during national team duty.
And yeah, I mean, to your point about, you know, I was trying to figure out where to go with the idea that you look at that roster, and I think that that's a good bedrock. You sit there and look at what happened in Austin, and I'm looking forward to seeing the American players. You know, you mentioned Isais yesterday, and I want to see how those American players are integrating as well when it comes to Pachuca, and how that could be a cornerstone for their continued recruitment for players as well, because of, you know, they kind of lock themselves into this notion of doing things domestically, but it makes sense to bring in a player like an Isais.
No, they're not purely bringing in guys domestically. They bring in young talent, but they are exploiting the U.S. Mexico, the Mexican American community. They've got a player who's born in Nevada. They've got a player who's born in Texas. But you look at their roster, they've got a number of Argentines. They've got Romario Ibarra from Ecuador. They are pretty well rounded. This is not Chivas. This is not a purely Mexican team. And even with the young players, they do look to bring in international talent. The two American guys that are on the rosters too, one of them is a much longer shot, but he did make the trip. The other one, Isais, is, I think, a little more likely. And his story is just so unique that he didn't make it when he went to Morelia as a kid, came back to the States and went through the Alianza de Football situation. And if you don't know that, I've been a part of a few of the events early on here in Atlanta. We did some stuff with them with soccer in the streets, and it's a huge tournament that has a money-making part of it where teams will pay to play in the tournament and local amateur teams will play. They have a youth tournament portion, but they also have a talent identification side to it. And the Mexican national team, Mexican clubs have taken full advantage of it. U.S. clubs were slow to get on board with it. I don't know how involved they are in it. U.S. national team scouts were slower to get involved, but then they got involved in it. It's a great opportunity to bridge the gap of guys playing in high-level club and having the money to play in high-level club and getting noticed. Isais was a kid who had kind of washed out of the Morelia Academy, comes back to Texas, goes through the Alianza program, gets noticed, gets all the way through, goes through the Sueño Alianza program, ends up earning a contract with Grupo Pachuca, and ends up going over to León and debuting in Liga MX as an 18-year-old. And this was a kid who at like 12 or so, 12, 13, was seen as somebody who wasn't going to make it at Morelia. And he's still very young. He might not make it at the level that we think he could. He might. He was a guy at one point, you know, it's like, oh, he's at León at 18. Man, he should be in the US U20s. Look, I don't know if he'd make the US U20s now, but he's a guy who's trying to carve out a career. And these stories are fascinating to me because Pachuca has done such a good job of identifying talent and bringing it through, developing it. And when we talk to John Arnold, I mean, you go through the list of names. I mean, Greg Garza was telling us, you know, about Chucky Lozano and Jurgen Damm and dealing with them when they were both young. Hector Herrera, who's going to Houston in the upcoming window. I mean, just so many guys have come through Pachuca. they've made the most of the resources they have. And that's a club that I think you have to admire. They're not a grande in Mexico in terms of history or in terms of money, but in terms of what they've won and what they've developed, yeah, they are. So they're in this kind of interesting situation. And I think for Atlanta United to bring them here, one, they're the perfect kind of club to bring here, because I think when you're talking about a club that's rich in young talent, hey, you'd like to see that young talent up close. And also build a relationship to where if they have somebody come through at a position that they're stocked in at the first team, hey, can come to Atlanta. We'll see what that would look like in red and black stripes. And what I'd love to see down the road is vice versa, where you have a talented Atlanta player who is behind, if it's Thiago Almada, if it's Joseph Martinez, if it's Miles Robinson, and isn't going to get playing time. That, hey, Pachuca has a need in this position. Let's send them down there for the Apertura. Let's send them down there for the Clausura and get that opportunity to play. So building these relationships with a club that is strong in talent development, Jarrett, I feel like that is the right relationship for Atlanta United to build, and Pachuca is just the perfect club to do that with.
Yeah, and it's excited to see how it goes down this evening, because it should be a lot of fun, because guys are going to be out there competing. You can build that relationship. To your point, hopefully it's a two-way street, because hopefully we do see Atlanta. Hopefully we do see Atlanta make trips there, make trips to South America. You want to expand your brand beyond just Atlanta, beyond just the southeastern United States. You want to be a bigger brand than that. Got to go get in people's faces sometimes. That means taking a trip to Mexico. That means taking a trip to Argentina if you want to do that. So hopefully we continue to see them to make those sorts of moves and show that ambition.
Yeah, I think, you look at a player like Noah Cobb, and, it's hypothetically, Pachuca is actually pretty good at center back, and I don't think they're going to have any issues with that coming up in the Apertura. But let's say that they did. Let's say they had an injury, and they were able to bring in Noah Cobb, who maybe wouldn't get more playing time here initially because of Alan Franco, Miles Robinson, George Campbell. But Noah could go there and add to his game. I'd love to see those kinds of things come up. I think as the clubs in MLS continue to mature and talent development continues to mature, you'll see more of those sorts of things. Noah's just an example of somebody who might get stuck behind people for a minute, and it might be an opportunity for him to get time elsewhere. We'll see. It's going to be a fun one tonight. I think this one it's a friendly. It's a celebration of the game. It's a celebration of two clubs that like to develop young talent. You're going to get to see a lot of that young talent. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. 7:38 is the kickoff. We'll be on the air at 7 o'clock with the Five Stripes countdown. 7:30 is the announced time. I think it's going to be a normal local TV time of 7:38 as the kick. And then we'll have the full-time report for an hour afterwards. Jarrett, before you go, I want to pick your brain about Costa Rica and New Zealand. That's at 2 o'clock. The last World Cup spot is on the line. Peru couldn't get it done yesterday, and it was really disappointing to see them just kind of lay an egg in that big moment. Australia did enough to get through. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to completely diminish Australia's performance, but Peru looked less like themselves than Australia looked good, in my opinion. Costa Rica and New Zealand, I don't think there's as big of a gap between the two. And with the conditions and everything, I just think this is going to be a really tight, cagey game. I'm not expecting a high-scoring one here.
No, neither am I. I'm expecting it to, cagey's a good word for it. It should be tense and weird, and that's okay. You'll see how it goes. It's gonna be a little chaotic at times, and I don't really know how to read it at this point, because I thought we felt pretty good about the way things were going to go yesterday for Peru, and we talked about Costa Rica being the kind of team that has that goalkeeper that can keep them in it. Pedro Gillespie was that guy for Peru yesterday, and Keylor Navas can be that guy for Costa Rica. Can you get something on the offensive side of things to make it stand up, to make it matter? I don't know enough about the clubs down in Oceania if how much better or worse a team like New Zealand is compared to Australia. So I mean I don't know.
Well, New Zealand doesn't have many domestic players. Most of their players are in Europe. So it's just this isn't the best edition of Costa Rica that we've seen in a while.
No, and we've talked about that. This kind of what do we call the not the end of a cycle, but it's kind of
it's the continuation of a cycle that maybe should have ended last time. And look, it opened up and they got here, and you have to give them the credit for that. You have a goalkeeper that is one of the best in the world. You have a team of veterans who have been there and done that, and they've been in knockout games. That stuff is going to help them a lot. They've been in more pressure-packed situations than New Zealand has. And this is where I think it really is a struggle to be in Oceania, because you're not playing like Australia in the Asian Cup. You're not playing in bigger games on a regular basis. You get this opportunity once every 4 years to have your playoff game to go. And New Zealand has generally struggled in that. 14, Mexico beat them. In 18, Peru beat them. And this time it's a one-off. It's not a back and forth. It's a one-off. I think Costa Rica has to have the advantage because of just more experience in these kinds of games.
We'll see how much it matters. Because I think you're right. I think they have the experience in that. But if this gets one of those things where the game is late and it's still tied, and the longer it goes like that, the more faith you give a team like New Zealand.
Yeah, maybe. I think it's the way the game goes, because if it's a 50-50 game and neither team's really having the advantage. Like if Costa Rica is not playing well, I agree with you. But if it's a 50-50 game, neither team can really get it. I think New Zealand could get tight towards the end because they haven't been here before. And Costa Rica and some of their veterans and Navas can be like, yeah, we're cool. This is just how it goes sometimes. We'll be fine. We'll see. What are the odds on this one right now, John?
Kind of shifted on the high side a little bit, but not a lot. New Zealand had been north of plus 500. Now they're just a little below plus 400 at plus 395. Costa Rica hasn't moved a whole lot. They're still barely in the minus at a minus 103. 90-minute draws a plus 193. That one's dropped a little bit as well.
The draw and the New Zealand number are both really nice in a game that I think is going to be super tight. I mean, if you're looking at it from a pure gambling perspective, those numbers are pretty nice and pretty possible here if you've got some spare juice boxes laying around. To give you a little bit of a glimpse of Costa Rica and what they're expecting to do, Everardo Herrera, journalist who covers the Costa Rican Liga national team, is reporting that they will play an 11 with three center backs, Navas in goal, Waston, Duarte, and Calvo as the center backs. Brian Ruiz will start. Not fast, Brian Ruiz at this point in his career, but as a playmaker, Brian Ruiz can open the game up. But can he go 90, let alone 120, if it comes down to it? I'm not so sure on that. I thought maybe he would be a super sub. We'll see. That game kicks off at 2. Jarrett, we might see you in hour number 2, but it's likely we'll see you tomorrow, right?
It's likely you'll see me tomorrow, and we'll talk about what the heck just happens with these two teams.
Costa Rica, New Zealand, Atlanta, Pachuca. Plenty of things to talk about tomorrow. We'll see you then, Jared.
Sounds good.
Well, Dylan, things just keep staying busy in your neck of the woods right now.
Yeah. When one door opens, I guess another one closes. I've been down this. I've had this dance before with NYCFC, right? So
yeah, it's always an interesting one with NYC and when coaching changes happen. I mean, the Jason Christ one. Okay, ultimately they got that right for sure. At the time, I was kind of like, whoa, okay, they didn't really give him much of a chance, and they didn't give him the players that he wanted, but they got it right. Vieira left in similar circumstances to this. We were there for his last game. It was a game against Atlanta. It was very cool to see him like on his way out, like talk to all of the fans outside that were waiting to say goodbye, because everybody kind of knew. I don't think it was official at that point, but they knew. Dome Tehran, it didn't work out, and they end up letting him go. And in this one, it looks like they have somebody who could be there for a while and climb up the ladder in the City Football Group hierarchy, possibly. And now he jumps ship. He goes to Standard Liège in Belgium, and luckily you do have somebody at NYC who is a city football group guy who understands what it means to be there. So an interesting set of circumstances.
It is, and I think you nailed it on the head. I think the similarities with Vieira are perfect, right? Because I was thinking before I jumped on, MLS, we talk about the players so often and how it's a developmental league and it's a selling league. Well, listen, when managers come over as well and they want to cut their teeth and improve maybe their resume, they're going to do the same, right? And we're seeing that, and we're even seeing it obviously with American coaches as well, with Jesse Marsh being the best example of that. So I think we need to expect that more in MLS. It's a destination for coaches for many reasons, training facilities and the ability to coach these young players on their way up, but also prove themselves, perhaps for them to make a jump, right? So I think it's huge for Ronny Deila. Obviously, he's left his imprint in New York City, and I got to say though, I remember when Nick Cushing was hired, and how excited the NYCFC brass and everybody around the club was really, really pumped on the sporting side to have him here. So they liked him a lot from the beginning. They kind of thought it was almost a steal for Manchester City women. And yeah, I think the positives are, you get someone where there is going to be that synergy already within, not only within a City Football Group, but obviously within NYCFC. So he was right there. He was right next to Ronnie. And I think it's super cool too that, this is a guy who, maybe similar to a John Herdman, right? Where he does so much work on the women's side. And you know what? NYCFC saying that, yeah, fine. Football is football. It doesn't matter. If you have a brain for football, you've got it for men, for women. And they're giving Cushing this opportunity, at least for the rest of the year. They have an interim tag, but they also signed him long term. So I think they kind of want to see, how it goes the rest of the season. But yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of the way to look about it. It was nothing negative. It wasn't like they didn't pay him what he thought he should get, or they weren't signing the players. It was just, he's Norwegian, he's European. It's a big move for him. And obviously they've got a guy in Cushing who they loved already. So
yeah, I almost feel like, the stories we would have in the past about players trying to make the jump from MLS to Europe, a lot of times they would go into, Belgium or some of the Dutch clubs or Scandinavia. And now maybe they're going into bigger leagues on the playing side, but the coaching side still has to catch up. And maybe the move from an MLS club is to Standard Liège, who is a club with new ownership, a club that's trying to be pretty aggressive, but, not in the top 5 leagues right now. Deila, I'm assuming kind of reestablished himself with what he did at New York and now has an opportunity to jump back into that conveyor belt of Europe and wants to go from Standard Liège to a top 5 league.
Sure. Yeah. And I think the window or the opportunity is there for him, right? It should be.
It can be, yeah.
Be. So, positive move for him. A great opportunity now for Cushing to maybe show naysayers that, like Herdman did, that just because he had success on the women's side with the Manchester City women's team, and he coached Carly Lloyd there and did a great job, won a handful of trophies, that he could also have success on this side and in MLS. He's certainly, what we do know is like he already has a great supporting cast around him, from a sporting director in David Lee to Mehdi Belushi, who's cut his teeth as an assistant coach. Rob Bartusian, who's been there from day one. So he's got guys around him who will certainly support him.
Yeah, Deila only took one person, right?
Yeah, F1. Yep.
Okay, so it's not like he took the whole staff. Got it.
Yeah.
So now let's go to the other part of the questions for NYCFC, but it only seems like the discussion is from the European side of the Atlantic Ocean when it comes to Tati Castellanos. Everyone, it seems, on that side of the ocean is like, yeah, he's coming, yeah, he's coming, yeah, he's coming. But we're hearing, the number was supposed to be 15, and we haven't heard anything outside of maybe 10 on this side of the Atlantic. So on the Colonial side, it's 10. On the European side, it's 15. What's the latest here? What's the vibe? Is it just talk on one side that's slanted toward Tati leaving? What's going on?
I'm going to go 12.5. Let's split the difference. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, listen, we've said it before. I think NYCFC is bullish on their valuation, right? And they are not budging from that number. They're in no hurry. They don't see a reason to part with Tati. It's not like he's forcing their hand. It's not like he's not going to training or playing, right? In fact, he's showing as well as he's ever shown, right? So they don't see a reason to budge from their number. Is it inflated? I don't know. I mean, I guess that all depends on the market. If someone pays, it's not inflated, right? So I suspect it'll be a very interesting window. Obviously there's the rumors whether it's a Forest or a Leeds. There's always going to be, the River Plates of the world as well that are, trying to get him to come home. But I think he'll be sold at some point. I don't know if it'll necessarily be the secondary window. This time preseason, I was sure he'd be gone in the summer.
Yeah.
But, again, he's, I think he also realizes, he goes for the golden boot again. He has a monster season again. He's not doing anything to harm those numbers. If anything, he's showing that he wasn't a one-hit wonder and can increase those, that valuation and his transfer fees. So I do think, though, impact-wise on NYCFC, if you put Dyla leaving and Tati Castellanos leaving, Castellanos is a much bigger impact on the club to me than Dyla. And that's not saying that he wasn't a great coach and all that comes with it, but just because there's not a like for like on the team for a Tati, that's going to be a bigger loss for the club.
Yeah, while the style of play will roughly be the same. I mean, Cushing will put his own imprint on little aspects of it, as any coach does, but he understands the City way. He knows what they want to do. He's been there, so he knows what's been working. You might see different substitution patterns. You might see some little tactical things game to game that Cushing might opt for as opposed to Dyla, but the general way they play is going to be the same. The thing about Tati that I keep coming back to, for that kind of price range, whether they get up to 15 or it ends up being somewhere slightly under and they go ahead and do the deal to sell, or you get a little bit of a bidding war and let's say it goes up, I could see it being one of those deals that goes late in the window. And the thing that makes it complicated is the window in the leagues in Europe, and I didn't look at all of them, but the major ones is September 1st. Almost a full month after the MLS window closes.
Yes.
I could see a scenario, and I'm guessing that NYC would feel comfortable with this because of Eber, that they're not able to sell him before the end of the MLS window to where they could go out and try to find a replacement, but they do sell him before the season is over, later in August before the window in Europe closes, if they get their valuation. Do you think they would go through with that then if they get their 15 million in, let's say, August 31st?
Yeah, I think so. I think
I kind of do too.
I think those reasons that you said. I think your best opportunity to get that number and to possibly get a bidding war is late in the window, right? Yeah. So that is, it's unfortunate for them. The calendar doesn't line up, but I think Eber that's a big part right there. And again, he's a different player. He's more of a finisher in the box than necessarily being that, ball winner, playmaker, finisher that Tati is. But again, you've got the guys around them, right? I think they're really well suited. If again, there's no like for like, and it's hard to replace him, but I think they're really well situated to deal with that because of all the surrounding parts, with the Talis Magna, with the Santi Rodriguez, with all the Maxi, obviously still, in the mix as a playmaker, as a guy who could also finish. So they've got a lot of parts, right? And that's I think making them in their mind, in their room, saying, yeah, we can make a move, late in the European window and still feel like we're pretty good, and we can still make a push for the cup.
Since we're on NYCFC, there was a point in the Twitch pitch that triggered a curiosity for me as well. Mr. Fantastic asking if there's any update on any stadium situation for NYCFC.
There's been rumblings of some talk about that. Maybe the rumor going around is I don't know if it's before the Open Cup match or before like the rivalry week match against Red Bull, that there might be some sort of an announcement about that. Nothing, no pun intended, nothing concrete that I've heard. But yeah, I mean, look, I've said it before. I think two things. I think their marriage, if you want to call it that, with the Yankees is not very good, and it hasn't been good for a couple of years, right? Like, you could see it too. And sometimes when the Yankees are pretty quick to just sort of be like, yeah, you guys can't play here. We need extra days to get the field ready, or we're not gonna lower the mound, and just like little things like that. The number we're always hearing is something along the lines of $1 million a match that they're still paying to rent Yankee Stadium. I still think their home should be Queens. Like, I just think fan base wise, they can get so much more of a bang for their buck. I've said it. I may have said it here. I feel like I'm up on a pulpit just preaching this, but the number 7 train, right, that goes to Citi Field, it runs on Roosevelt Avenue. It runs through so many different neighborhoods of Queens. Every single stop, I should say, on that train is like another ethnic group, right? There's Mexicans, there's Ecuadorians, there's Colombians, there's Argentines, there's Peruvians, like, there's Irish in Woodside. Like, there's so many soccer fans, right? And I think the area right around Citi Field is perfect. If you guys have been there, there's an area behind it that they're renovating. They're trying to change. I think it's a great spot for a soccer stadium. Flushing Meadows Corona Park, which is right there as well, it's all part of that same complex. Every day of the week, it's not baseball, it's not American football, it's soccer that's being played there, right? So I feel like in New York City, that's the hotbed. That's where it should be. Obviously, if you still have that partnership with the Yankees, I think it's hard to sell having a stadium in the Mets backyard. But I think if we know anything about City Football Group, it's that they don't lack money, right? So I think they can maybe sever that, maybe even make a new deal with the Mets, and get themselves into a part where, and again, it's easy for everyone to get to, mass transit from highways and byways, and but that's my spiel. But to answer a guy with a fantastic tag there, Mr. Fantastic, nothing concrete, but there are rumblings about some sort of an announcement coming up in the near future.
Yeah, I've seen lots of rumblings about like different partnerships that the club has created with like concrete companies or construction companies and things like that, and people are trying to connect the dots. So
I think they're just getting their ducks in a row, right? So when they can finally say, we're good, all right, we have all our people and let's go.
Contract here, contract here. We've got all of our infrastructure covered.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's a needed one. I mean, we've talked about it, and people have asked us, what's the long-term future? And I think it has to include a stadium. If it doesn't, then you're going to have to reimagine it. And I don't know what CFG does in that regard. And I don't know what that turns into, because they can't be at Yankee Stadium or Citi Field forever.
No. And yes, they need a home. They know it. I mean, listen, the Red Bulls went through something similar.
Yeah.
For so many years. They were at, cavernous giant stadium and where they would have even 20,000 people in an 80,000 seat stadium just looked empty. Right. And they had so many starts and stops, and the stadium was going to be this and that. And we see what happened with Red Bull Arena, right? Like it's a cathedral. So that's taken a long time. And just imagine that's in New Jersey, right? Like it's even harder to build a stadium in New York City. So, it stinks that it's taken this long. It's super frustrating for the fan base. It's even league wide, right? Everyone wants to see a beautiful stadium in New York City proper. And that's the other thing too. I think that NYCFC, they from the very beginning, they said, we're getting a stadium within the 5 boroughs. And they said that very, very specifically, right? So that doesn't mean Long Island. It doesn't mean Westchester, where they might have been able to get a deal done quicker. They've been very, very specific. And again, that, you're dealing with politics, you're dealing with a lot of different things in New York City that makes it very difficult to get a major project like that done.
And they've worked towards it. I mean, I think, it needs to be understood by the soccer community in this country that they're not just sitting back and waiting for something to come to them. They've been very out in front of this. They've been close a few times. I think if the pandemic doesn't hit, that deal that they were working on near Yankee Stadium probably gets moving. There's just so many different things that have tripped them up, but it has not been a lack of work by NYC as an entity, as a club, to get this done. It just hasn't happened yet.
And think about it too, right? They've done an incredible job with the mini pitches, 50 of them throughout the city, and that's everywhere, all 5 boroughs, right? Staten Island included. So they've done their work on the community side to get to say, listen, we're in this long term. So I think they've checked all those boxes I think that they need to do. And now they just, it's the final hurdle. But that said, even when they get the go ahead, right, we know what construction projects are like. So
let's head south just a little bit to DC. They are in a bit of a state of flux with the manager situation in the long term. We don't know what that's going to be. Edison Flores, I thought, played really well for Peru yesterday, better than he's played in general for DC. But he looks to be on the way out to Mexico. And now they are linked with Sonny Kittel from Hamburg in Germany. What's the model going forward for DC at this point? Because I don't really know where they're headed.
Got me. I don't know. Who knows, right?
They were so far down the road,
going in different areas, and it's almost like DC traffic, where they just kind of end up, kind of circling back and going on around the same roundabout. Like they can't get to the right turn they need to be, and
frankly, it started before the season. I mean, when you're coming back with Hernan Losada, and you're then bringing somebody like Taxi Fontes, who I don't know if he fit what Losada wanted to do. I don't think he really did. We just saw Loudoun United, the reserve team here in Atlanta, and they completely changed their focus, going much older than they had, with a team that, we saw Kevin Paredes come through that team, Griffin Yao, Moses Nyman, Hopkins, who's on a first team deal now. So many guys came through that, and now they're fielding a team, in the back of Jalen Robinson and Grant Lillard in their mid-20s. And it's like, okay, what's the vision there with talent development? What's the vision with the players that are coming in? Now you've moved on from Losada. who's coming next. You're linked to Cattell. Like, where are they going? Because I just have no idea at this stage.
And that's kind of the problem. I think, we've said on this spot a few times about clubs' identities, right? And even when you have a managerial change, like Atlantis had some changes, right? But in many ways, you'd say it's the same idea, right? Like,
yes,
the attacking soccer, and same with NYCFC, right? They've got
NYC absolutely right
these
now.
different guys, but it's all within the same Red Bull. We know that what the next manager, what they're going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
But DC never really had that, right? It was one thing under Olsen, and now Lasada brought a whole different idea. And when you part with that so quickly in the early stages of it, when you're getting different guys that you think fit that system, and now it looks like a mess, right? Like, it's just a jumble. And the Loudon thing is boggling my mind, because why, you're a reserve team essentially, right? Like, you're setting up your first team. Why would you set up your first team with guys who, maybe don't have that opportunity to play in MLS or anymore, or had that opportunity before, right? Like, you should be it should be, if anything, it should be even younger. It should be 15 and 16-year-olds playing.
That's what we're seeing here.
Yeah,
it's more academy guys playing, and they're absolutely taking their lumps at times, and you're seeing mistakes that are like, oh man. And Grant Lillard's not going to make those mistakes. Grant Lillard is a borderline MLS center back. He has been in, I think, 3 different stops before Loudon. He can be on an MLS roster and be a 4th or 5th guy and be available and come in and do a job. But he's not going to be a starter. He could go start in USL Championship. And that's where I think we're starting to see some of those levels in the game start to separate a bit, which is a good thing. Right. You can make a really good career in the 2nd division now and play for 10 years and play 300 games and have a huge impact and set yourself up for what you want to do down the road. But if you're a reserve team, you kind of already know that some of these guys are not going to make it to your first team, not impact your first team. They might be your 7th best center back in the club. What's the point, as opposed to playing a 16-year-old that you don't know that yet?
Or have that guy be the mentor to the 15 or 16-year-old, right? Like,
yeah. And I like Jalen Robinson, I kind of get. They just brought him back, and he was a homegrown, and okay, he's part of the family, and they bring him back from Pittsburgh when he's available. All right, he can be a mentor. I get that. But when you have a team of mentors, then the kids aren't playing. This is weird.
I don't know.
Very strange.
It was almost as weird and strange as the game last night in San Pedro Sula.
Oh, yes. Canada still banging on the referee's door afterwards. Not happy.
Yeah. Dude, how is there? Listen, I was on that match for MLS. It was CONCACAF at its best.
Do you like the water park?
Oh, man. I mean, that was one, right? Like, just, they want to play, they want to combine, and it just like sloshes through and kills. Honestly, the puddles were the man of the match.
Yes.
Then you've got everything that happens in stoppage time, and you're like, there's going to be 12 minutes stoppage time. And he ends it at like 7.5 or whatever it was, from already saying there was 6. And then you gave a red card in the stoppage time. Like, at one point they showed the referee, I think it was on one, like, I think a little kid ran on the field, and they showed him close, and the referee's like, ugh. Like, he wanted out of there in the worst way. Like, he was getting rained on all day, and he's dealing with the teams and all the abuse that you generally get as a referee, but he wanted no part of that. So he's like, yeah, no, we're out. See ya. And you understand the frustration for Canada, but on a larger picture, this has not been a good window for them. Like,
no, it has not.
We've said this before. You've got very few opportunities to get your team ready for the World Cup, right? And it's obviously been so long for them. You first have a match against Iran, which would have been a great test for them, another team, right, that's in it. That gets canceled. Then the player protest happens with the Panama match. That was like your, quickly finding other opponent. Oh, well, we're not playing that now. Then you've got Curacao, a minnow, right, in CONCACAF. So yeah, great, you beat them, and then you really can't take anything from this match last night in Honduras. So of this window where you could have played 3 to 4 matches, you really kind of play one, right? And now you go to September and you're likely going to Europe and play European teams. But yeah, not the best prep for Canada. That is for sure.
Yep. Do they get out of Group F?
I don't know. I have my doubts now, right? Like I don't.
Yeah.
You wanted to see them tested and do well, and I like them as a club. I love the parts. I love Buchanan and Davies and Estacchio in the middle, and you know the number 9 strangely is a question for them as well, right? Is it does David kind of play that role? Does Kyle Larin, you know, catch form again? Is it Lucas Cavallini, or is he more of a super sub? So there's questions there. But I like the collective makeup of them. But when you've not been on that stage, and think about it too, they don't regularly test themselves against any of those teams, right? Like we've seen the U.S. play Brazil, Argentina, you know, a bunch of different countries, just to name a couple, and Canada's not, right? So I think that is worrisome as well, because you don't know what they're going to do on the biggest of stages. So
yeah, we went through this last night, just talking worldwide about how many teams that you might consider favorites or teams that you had expectations of going into the World Cup that have had a bad summer. You know, Germany in Nations League has drawn 3. England hasn't looked good in Nations League. France isn't going to get out of their group in Nations League. They've been bad. Brazil's been good. Argentina's been good. You know, a lot of the favorites have not looked great. Belgium has been pretty good. Denmark's been really good, but they're not a favorite. Spain, I would not really have called a favorite, although the odds makers, I think, had them the 4th favorite. They've been pretty good. Portugal's been pretty good. But it feels like, and we went through this because historically we'll go into a World Cup and we'll look at it and say, all right, maybe this is a wide open tournament. And it never truly turns out that way.
Yeah.
Outside of maybe one team, Croatia making a run last time around. Like the Blue Bloods are the Blue Bloods in the World Cup, and they get there. And who could be the one that gets into that step this year? A team that's never been to a semifinal that gets there. Denmark feels like the biggest one to me. And even with it being so wide open, you just expect France to be France at some point, Germany to be Germany at some point. Brazil and Argentina, I think you feel pretty good about right now. And it's just such a weird run up to the tournament because teams are playing their last games now. They're not going to be back together until September for like a week. And that's it. And that's it. And they turn around and play a week after the European season shut down. It's such a weird run up that everything feels like it could be on the table in this World Cup.
You're right. It does. And one more thought just on Canada and CONCACAF in general. Obviously, Costa Rica going for their opportunity today as well. Listen, I got to say, I mean, everyone in CONCACAF kind of talks like, give CONCACAF the respect. It doesn't get enough respect. But you know what? You've got to play these teams, right?
Yeah.
Like Mexico do. The U.S. does, right? Like, so if you're Canada, maybe that's your next step now in your development of a program, of a nation, as a soccer nation, is to now go out and play these teams, right? Now, maybe it's not as easy as it seems. I don't know. You know, like if an Argentina is going to play a couple games on this, you know, in this area, they're likely going to play Mexico and the U.S., right?
You got to pay up. You got to buy that game.
Correct. Yeah. So that's something that they've got to commit to. You know, it's.
I got a trivia question for you.
Okay.
Who was the last European opponent that Canada played?
That's a great question. Last European opponent that they played. I don't know. Is there a hint? Like, can I go a certain region or?
Scandinavian-ish.
Iceland.
Yes. That's
All right,
crazy.
that was only off of your
I mean, it's not exactly Scandinavia.
Well, that's in
the
the Scandinavian-ish, yes.
Yeah.
He did say ish, and
I
I also was trying to think like who's not the best in like it wasn't going to be Sweden. Like it wasn't.
January 15th of 20 before the pandemic. And look, the pandemic has affected some of this, but they go back before that. I mean, high profile games outside of CONCACAF opponents that Canada has played, they stopped playing them. They did. I mean, I remember in 94, you know, they didn't qualify, and look, they're right next to where the tournament's going to be. So they got Brazil coming through. They got somebody else coming through, and it was a big deal. But they're not going out and getting these games. I mean, they're friendlies in 16, 17, and this is leading up to a World Cup cycle. Morocco, South Korea, okay, that's not bad. Bermuda, Scotland, and Curacao. Those are friendlies. You know, like they've got to push it. And we've seen this financial conversation about Canada and how much money the federation has and what they're going to do. If they're going to get tested outside of CONCACAF and get an Argentina, get a Brazil, get an Ecuador, get a Colombia, you know, get somebody of that ilk, they're going to have to pay them to come play in Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver. And they're going to have to pony up, or the team is going to get into this situation where they go into a World Cup and they're not prepared to deal with the opponents they're going to see.
Yeah, and they've got, you know, a handful of their guys and really probably literally a handful, right? Like certainly Davies off the top of my head with Bayern Munich, like are used to that level. And so many of their other guys are, you know, and we love MLS, and we fly the flag, but MLS guys who aren't tested like that, like the European players, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think that's big to kind of show one that this wasn't a one-hit wonder, that they finished atop the octagonal stage, and also that they're serious about their football, right? It can't be Iran canceled, so we're gonna have Panama. Like I know
them all the time.
A little bit tight, 100%. Yeah. Like, what was the next one? You're gonna play Forge, like as like a cool.
Yes, that was probably it.
Maybe go to Tim Hortons and play Forge.
They were going to bring Greenland in as Greenland's welcome to FIFA.
Yeah.
That's basically where you're at. It's just, you know, you go back historically, and when everything happened with the boycott, you know, we kind of broke it down, and I compared it a lot to the U.S. in the late 80s and 90s in terms of you have a federation that has to grow up. They have to get with the modern game now, and they have to catch up, because they didn't when they qualified in 86. There was no progress. They didn't when they won the Gold Cup in 2000. There was no progress from there. There was nothing. I think they got to a Gold Cup semi when the U.S. beat them, kind of dubious situation in 2011, if I remember right. And no real progress from there. They'd still drop like shocking results in World Cup qualifying in the semifinal round. This has got to be a jumping off point with the World Cup coming to this region in 4 years. This has to be the building point. They've got to grow up, and we'll see. And last night, look, I mean, it's super CONCACAF-y. It's a tough pitch. It's all of that. But those are games that has to be an anomaly to lose that the way that they did and have the reaction they did. Frankly, it feels kind of normal
for Canada.
Yeah.
No, it's fair. And also it felt like they took a long time to sort of change their tactics and how they were going to play. Like they didn't kind of they didn't start bypassing the lake in the midfield until like midway through the second half, right? Like,
yeah, if you're not bringing a boat out there in the midfield, you better skip it.
Like I saw one, it was really funny. They went from like the left, which wasn't as waterlogged, and they made a switch to the right, and they had like, I think Buchanan trying to play with Johnston there. And like, it was just, there was nothing, you couldn't play there. Like, why even make the switch, right? Like, I know your mind is saying in training, we do this and we do like all the patterns, but it's, there's like 5 feet of water on that side of the field. Like, just go, keep playing on that side. And the other kind of cool CONCACAF thing, I don't know if you guys noticed. So like, they show the crowd at the beginning of the match and they're all like in the upper tiers, just trying to stay dry. And then it felt like once they scored the first goal, I don't know, maybe people were texting like, Bud, come on out. This is amazing. Like, the crowd just grew and grew as the match went on. I want to say about like the 70th minute, it looked like 3/4 at least of the side you can see on the TV side were full. Like, they were just coming in. Like, you just felt like the gates were open and they were like, come on in, everybody.
Sure definitely. On a night like that where everybody's just like, yeah, dude, yeah, come on in. Yeah, we got a lead. Come on.
Yeah, don't worry about the ticket price. Just come on in. Yeah.
That's CONCACAF.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you're right. I mean, one, you find, you figure out ways in that kind of match, but two, in a critical window, you play better opponents, right? I mean, again, what has the U.S. done in this situation, right? Like, they played, yes, they got to play their Nations League matches, right? Like, obviously,
right.
But then they set themselves up with opponents who are also going to the World Cup, right?
Yeah,
and test themselves in different ways.
Yep, you got 2 games to help prepare. We'll see what Canada does with the September window, and I have not heard anything about what opponents could look like for them. It's not going to be UEFA teams because they'll still be busy with Nations League. Haven't heard anything about South American teams. We've heard the U.S. potentially, Saudi Arabia, and Japan. I don't know. We'll see. Canada's got to do something there because they lost their friendlies ahead of Nations League, and Nations League didn't look great. So we'll see what happens. Back into a normal weekend of MLS. We've got a couple of weird midweek games with the one tonight and the one tomorrow. Is there anything that stands out to you as we get back to normal scheduling in Major League Soccer?
No, just that nothing is normal.
The
scheduling might be more normal, but no, it's going to be as crazy as ever. But I mean, you look. I think NYCFC's next match is going to be now interesting, right? Like, what do they look like? What is the 11? What is how do they want to play, kind of thing? And we expect it to be very similar, but you're right. Maybe a few tweaks. We want to kind of see what some of Cushing's little imprints will be, maybe right away. So that's a match I think interested in seeing. Also, feel terrible for Alex Callens and Peru. I mean, like, he's been in such a great form, considering how he's been playing. He would have been a starter in the World Cup. It's a dream for everybody, who plays the sport, certainly professionally. So, gutted for him, gutted for Gillespie and those guys. That's a hard way to go out, man. To like, I was saying to my wife yesterday too. I was like, the way it's set up, right, where you go to Qatar, and like, that makes it worse.
Yes,
like,
it does.
You get the feeling, like, and you start to imagine, like, oh man, this is where we're going to be. This is our training facility. This is going to be our hotel. This is like all of those things. Like, you see it, you're physically there to, and then it's just taken away. Yeah, that's horrible.
It's rough. See how those guys bounce back. Potentially, we'll see how the Costa Ricans come back into the league this weekend.
Yeah.
Lots of big stories. I'll end with this question for you. Mm-hmm. Is this the last time that Carlos Vela plays against Seattle?
Is this the last time Carlos Vela?
Because we have no update on his contract that I think ends in.
I don't think so. I think they'll have at least an extension for the year and figure things out then. I think they'll work something out.
I would think so. It's the 14th. I don't know. I keep checking that date.
All day?
What's that?
You're running at Chiellini all day long?
He's not there yet. He's not playing yet.
When he gets there.
Yeah, he's not playing yet. He might not play with Carlos Vela if Vela's contract is up, and then Chiellini can't join the team until July 7th. So we'll see. Dylan, anything you got coming up that you need to let people know about?
Yeah, no, I mean, the Union Omaha piece is out on OSDB Sports, so check that one out. That was a fun one going into their match against Sporting. and remarkably too, right? Like they get the winner of Sacramento Republic LA Galaxy. So if Sacramento Republic can pull the cup set, you could have Union Omaha, Sacramento Republic to get into the final. That's what it's all about. We love
I need an Open Cup final in Omaha. I need that to happen.
Yeah, in a baseball stadium.
Yes, let's do it.
Yes.
Against NYCFC.
Let's do it. It'll be perfect. Everybody will feel right at home.
There you go.
Dylan, thanks for the time, man. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, boys.
Be good.
Yeah.
Make sure you are following him, Dylan_Butler, on the social medias. John, tell us about our good friends over at Eliminize.
I could certainly do that. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go, and it is Eliminize service. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pets, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process that makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment. We like that. Very green way of going about things these days as they chase after odors and get rid of them without any toxic residue whatsoever. Different than our favorite masking agents that we have under the sink, because when you reach under the sink, you pull that masking agent out, you spray it in the air. What are you doing? You're masking the odor. That's what a masking agent is. It doesn't attack the problem all the way down to the molecule to destroy these kinds of odors. Proven scientific formula that does exactly that. Pricing one of two ways, either cubic feet or parts per million, to make it affordable and easy for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go is their website, eliminize.com. But do us a favor here at SDH. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are talking to them from. So your full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, eliminize.com /Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air as we gather all of your Tuesday thoughts getting ready for Pachuca and Atlanta United at Mercedes-Benz tonight. Eliminize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH.
All righty. Make sure you are checking out the Eliminize if you are in need of their product. Other stuff on the board before we get into a few questions to wrap up today. El Salvador, United States tonight in CONCACAF Nations League, 10 o'clock. So you can catch it after the Atlanta Pachuca match. It's on FS1. It's on Univision. It's on Today NA. Haji Wright is going to make his first start up top. Ethan Horvath will start in goal. George Bello, Eric Palmer Brown, Christian Roldan also in line to start. Malik Tillman will not play, injured in the Granada game. A win will clinch a top two finish in the Nations League Group D and also a spot in the 2023 Gold Cup. As if that was a concern, they should be fine. El Salvador coming into this. They were promoted to League A after they won their League B group in the last edition of the Nations League. They lead the group right now with a win and a draw. They drew 2-2 against Granada on the road. They won 2-1 against them at home. Women's national team, the roster is out. There's been some controversy. Kristen Press was going to be left off of it anyway, according to Vlatko Andonovski, before she tore her ACL. People are up in arms about that. Although, look, competition is real. And in that position, you're talking about Alex Morgan. You're talking about Trinity Rodman, Ashley Hatch, Sophia Smith, Mallory Pugh. Andonovski said it's not easy to be a forward in the United States right now. Competition's a good thing, and you're not locked into a spot. Now, Press has been good in NWSL since coming back. She's injured. She wasn't going to be part of this team anyway. But people are really been out of shape about that. And look, I've said it before. You got to get younger. Megan Rapinoe and Alex Morgan are in the team. Morgan is scoring goals like crazy right now in NWSL, so I have no problem with that one. Look, Rapinoe has been able to keep the spot. I don't know how much longer she does because, you give me Trinity Rodman, Ashley Hatch, Mallory Pugh in the form she's in right now, Sophia Smith. Those are going to be players you're going to get time, and those are going to be players that should get time as you have to start taking the next step. It can't just be national team for life like it used to be. And that might be a wake-up call for some women's national team fans. You don't have the situations you had in the past with contracts and guaranteed spots and a number of guaranteed players from contracts and players who aren't on contracts not getting called in no matter what they do at their club. Game done changed. And that's going to be a challenge for some players to keep their spot. 23 players named to the qualifying roster. This is the CONCACAF W Championship. It'll determine the 4 teams for the 2023 Women's World Cup from CONCACAF. It'll also determine qualifying for the 24 Olympics. Tobin Heath left off. Kristen Press left off. Crystal Dunn recently gave birth. Sam Mewis is out with an injury, as is Abby Dahlkemper and Lynn Williams and Katarina Macario. We'll get started in July in Monterrey. First off, you have 2 games against Colombia, June 25th in Colorado, June 28th in Sandy, Utah. U.S. women's national team roster out, and some people are upset. Mentioned the Canada-Honduras game. Canada pulled one back late, and it was a wild finish, but Honduras ended up winning 2-1 in that one. We'll come back to rumor and innuendo in just a second. A couple of other bits of news. Karim Benzema will be the official captain of Real Madrid. He wore the armband a lot last year, with Marcelo really playing kind of a bit role. Marcelo did lift the Champions League and La Liga trophies, as he should, but Benzema is now the official captain, and he is only the 4th non-Spaniard in club history to be captain. First 2 are like turn of the century. Arthur Johnson and Federico Revuelto in 1901 to 1904 for the 2 of them. Marcelo was the next non-Spaniard to be captain, and now Karim Benzema. Arsenal confirmed the signing of 19-year-old Brazilian forward Marquinhos from Sao Paulo. He's a Brazilian U17 international in the past. Debuted with the first team at Sao Paulo as an 18-year-old. They won their state league in 2021. Player for the future, according to Edu, the technical director of Arsenal. Really highly thought of young Brazilian Marquinhos. Burnley have appointed Vincent Kompany, as has been reported for a while. He's the new manager. Now, they do have financial troubles, and we've mentioned it. They got a £65 million loan from American finance company MSD Holdings. A significant proportion of that now has to be repaid after being relegated. Now, they'll get more than that in their parachute payment, but what it does is it takes money away that they could have used to keep players in the championship, with an eye to going back to the Premier League next year, keep them from rebuilding a little bit, because they've got to repay whatever proportion of $65 million they got to pay. The parachute payment is more than that. I don't know what that number currently is, John, but it's over 100, somewhere between 100 and 200 that you get when you get relegated the first year. So they can pay it. It just limits what they can do with some other things. And that's the situation that Vincent Kompany's walking into. The situation in La Liga is interesting. Goal.com with an update. We've talked about this when it comes to Barcelona a lot, with the La Liga spending limits and rules and their kind of salary cap, although it's determined by your financial position. So it's not a cap across the board. For example, Real Madrid can spend more than anybody else, I think by more than 2 or 3 times, because they've run themselves pretty well and they have plenty of money coming in, so they can spend plenty of money. Other clubs, if they're not bringing in a whole lot of money, they can't spend as much money. So it kind of creates a situation where Real Madrid stays where Real Madrid is. Barcelona fell out of that because of bad financial management. They're not the only ones. According to Goal.com, up to 15 clubs are exceeding their salary cost limit and running into economic restrictions in being able to sign new players. Atleti is one of them. They are quite excessive, according to Goal.com, in their financial fair play situation with La Liga. They have to adjust to what Barcelona had to deal with, the 1-to-3 rule, where every million that they invest, they must generate savings and capital gains by 3 million. So they can't make any mistakes right now, and they're not really going to be able to go out and bolster the squad. They would love to sell somebody before June 30th, because that's when you start to set the new numbers after that. That'll finish the financial year. But they also don't want to sell somebody just to sell somebody, because in La Liga, there's not really many people who can buy because of the situation. So, what are you going to be able to do? They're already going to get Luis Suarez, Hector Herrera. Maybe a couple others off the books, possibly, but they're going to bring Morata back, Niguez back, maybe a couple others back from loan. So how much of a wash is that? Atleti's in a weird situation, and just keep that in mind in La Liga across the board. Of course, Real Madrid's not in the situation. But most of the league is not going to have a lot of money to spend, and they're going to have to sell. And you might see some sales out of Spain in the next 2 weeks to try to fix those numbers up a little bit. Teams just aren't going to be able to really add a whole lot at the moment in Spain, with up to 15, according to Goal.com, clubs exceeding that salary number. And maybe not all of them are in as bad of a situation as Atleti, but they're going to have to do some things economically that are going to affect the footballing side. And I wonder if La Liga makes any changes or allows any concessions to their rule for this with so many teams in this issue. Probably not, but it's going to have a big effect on the league. So keep that in mind when we get into the silly season stuff. And if you hear some players leaving La Liga and you're kind of like, wow, I'm surprised they'd sell that player. Well, they might have to. Rumored innuendo, Dries Mertens. He has not had contract renewal talks with Napoli. He's 35. He is still with Belgium. He spoke about this ahead of the match with Poland. He said, I want to make the right choice. I want to find a good club. I'm calm, but I think a lot about my choice. I thought I'd stay at Napoli. It's strange that they waited so long. I haven't heard from anyone yet. I hope in the coming days or weeks to let you know. Been there since 2013. Came in for about 10 million euro from PSV. Kind of a good deal. 397 games across competitions, 148 goals, 90 assists. He has been linked with a move to Lazio and reuniting with Maurizio Sarri, who was a big fan of his, and they got along really well. Sven Botman, who we talk about every single day on this show, currently at Lille. Newcastle have given Lille an ultimatum regarding their offer. It sounds kind of shady. And look, this is going to happen to Newcastle with their all their money that they have these days. The Telegraph reported that 35 million euro was the offer that Newcastle put on the table. Lille agreed to it. Then came back and said, no, we want 42 million. And Newcastle's ticked off. They said they're not going to send a higher offer. Lille has to decide if they want the 35 or not. Milan is hanging around wanting to get Botman. A bunch of other clubs have been linked with it as well. But Newcastle have thrown their cards on the table and might have thrown their cards in the face of Lille after, oh, no, we want 7 million more now. Yeah, it's going to happen to Newcastle right now because of the money. Just going to be an issue. Lewandowski at Bayern, they would be willing to let him go for 50 million euro. Bayern do not want installments. They don't want this to be spread over time. They want 50 million upfront, paid immediately now if they're going to sell Lewandowski. I'll be curious to see how all that works out because I don't see how he's playing there this season after what's been said. But I don't know if somebody comes in with 50 million euro either. Not straight up front. That's going to get interesting. Derek Ray sharing from Kicker that Chris Richards is of interest to Hoffenheim. He's been on loan twice to Hoffenheim from Bayern. They've obviously liked him. They want to strengthen their defense. Hoffenheim could bring Richards in. I don't know if it's another loan or if it's on a permanent. Not sure how many years he has left on his deal with Bayern. There was talk that Bayern was going to give him an opportunity in preseason, but are they really? I don't know. Peter Lim, the owner of Valencia, he wants to bring Leonardo, who has not officially been fired at PSG yet, wants to bring him in as the sporting director. Leonardo, ex-Valencia player, and used to work with their new manager, Gennaro Gattuso, at Milan. Okay. Leonardo is used to working at PSG, where he has a lot of money to spend. Valencia, not so much. No. That'll be interesting to see how that goes. This morning, news comes out that Tottenham have agreed to a 30 million euro or 30 million pound deal for Bissouma of Brighton. That completely opens the door for Moises Caicedo to play all the time. Would be their third signing at Tottenham of the summer. They were interested in bringing him in January, couldn't get it done. He's got to undergo a medical. They got to get the final individual terms done with the player, but it is all but done with Bissouma going to Tottenham from Brighton. Calvin Phillips is the preferred target of Manchester City for a midfielder. Calvin Phillips has been linked to every club under the sun, so stay tuned. Manchester United have reportedly officially opened talks on Frankie de Jong of Barcelona. Barca wants €100 million. Manchester United have said they're not going to pay more than 80. Barcelona needs to sell him before June 30th. It's June 14th. We'll see where this goes. I think he's gone, and I think he goes to Manchester United, but I don't know what the price ends up being. There's some tension between the two. The English Manchester United have said, like, we're out if you keep saying 100 million. I think they're going to stick it to Barcelona and say, look, you got to sell him. You know you do. We're not going to pay you more than 80. Take it or leave it. And I think Barca's going to have to take it. Sadio Mane is another one that could be getting into take it or leave it category. Bayern reportedly going to make a third bid. 35 million plus 5 million in possible add-ons. They could increase from there. Sport 1 claimed that Liverpool have lowered their demands from 50 million to 41 million. 35 plus 5 is 40. Yeah. Okay. You're getting into the ballpark here. Bild and Sky Germany both expect an agreement to be reached soon. Ousmane Dembele could be headed to Chelsea. They're the favorites to sign him. He has rejected the latest contract proposal from Barcelona. He's out of contract at the end of June. Chelsea are the ones who are linked most likely to get him. And one more on the board out of South America. Cesar Luis Merlo reporting that Nico Castro, who's been really good for Newell's Old Boys, over 50 games for them at 21 years old. He's valued at over $7 million by Transfermarkt. Eintracht Frankfurt have reportedly made an offer to bring in Nico Castro. Be a good get. 21 years old. He's been a player that I've noticed, a really good player. So Eintracht Frankfurt could be shopping in South America. Lots of other rumor and innuendo. That's all the news and rumor and innuendo and such on the board this morning. What do we have on the Twitch pitch?
Couple of folks in conversations, but before we get into Twitch pitch real quick, you were talking about parachute payments and those kinds of figures. Looking at the last round of parachute payments incrementally, it's over a 3-year period, diminishing share of the TV revenue. It went something around the neighborhood of 50 million, 44 million, and 19 million by the third year for parachute payments. So that's what Burnley is looking at.
I'm not worried about second and third year. What's the first year?
50.
Oh, are you sure? That's dropped a lot than what I remembered it being. So yeah. I could be remembering it wrong. Well, then that's going to be the whole parachute payment pretty much. We don't know what proportion of 65 million they got to repay, but that's going to take all that out. And you're just going to have to deal with it if you're Burnley. We'll see if they can handle it.
And Manchester United is chasing after Christian Eriksen now as well. And
that one.
Cool piece of news out of the USL Championship. Kobe Henry, the youth international for the U.S., has finally been transferred to Reims. Jeff Carlisle at ESPN has the transfer fee at around $700,000, which would make it the largest fee in USL history. And that breaks the previous record holder set earlier this month when Diego Luna went from El Paso to RSL for $250,000. Folks also tell Carlisle that Orange County will get a percentage of any future transfer fee if Reims move Henry at a later date, which could push the total fee past $1 million. So good stuff out of the USL Championship with Kobe Henry, too.
Nice. I'm assuming you saw the parachute payment thing from the Sporting News.
Yes.
Okay. There are other elements to it that end up being the parachute money's part of solidarity payments worth a total of about £100 million. So you take all of that together, add the parachute payment in, yeah, they'll be able to pay the loan, but it will limit how they can build their team. They're not going to be at risk of not being able to pay the loan back. It'll just take money away from building the team at Burnley. I would assume Vincent Kompany knows that walking in, but we'll find out what they can do.
Yeah. GH on the Twitch pitch wants to know if you think Pachuca will field their strong 11 at the start.
No idea. They did in Austin. I've seen people going back and forth about when you field your strongest team. Look, I don't think it really matters. Do you go with kids early and then play your first group later? Do you do it vice versa? Either way, I mean, it doesn't really matter too much. I think Pachuca will probably be about the same as Atlanta United. I think it'll probably be really 2-11s. That's roughly what they did in Austin. I would assume they do the same here with guys not playing more than 45, maybe one or two guys play 60, but not much. I think it's roughly going to be 2-11s.
World Cup qualifying thought from Thomas Jewin having to do with the New Zealand match and about New Zealand specifically. What New Zealand is doing and staying in Oceania. It's a tough balance for New Zealand, he thinks, because staying in Oceania is far more practical. And starting in 2026, it'll pretty much guarantee a World Cup bid, but it really limits their ceiling.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're at a point where they can really compete if they wanted to go to Asia. I haven't really seen much of that conversation, to be honest. Australia was further along. When Australia got the invite to go to Asia, they needed to do it. I don't know if New Zealand would get that invite. I'm not sure if they're at that point that Asia would really need them. So I don't know how much of a choice they have in this, to be honest. But it does put a ceiling on them for sure. It 100% does. They'll basically have a guaranteed World Cup spot going forward again, because the winner of Oceania will get one and they're going to win that. So I think the paradigm changes with 26 now. It does put a ceiling on it. They're going to have to do, like we talked about with Canada, they're going to have to go and play people, because they're not going to get tested within their confederation. They're going to have to go and go on a South American tour and play 3 games. Come play the U.S. and Mexico and Canada. Go on a European tour when you can do it around Nations League, if that's even going to be possible. They're going to have to go do those things, because they'll get a spot. They'll get a spot where they weren't getting a spot before. They had to go through a playoff, but you're not going to be prepared for it. Just so you know, and this is what it's FIFA. Anything can change. This is not written in stone just yet, although it has been approved. Just wait till somebody comes up with money and wants to change it. So UEFA will get 16 spots. That's 3 more. This is in the 48-team World Cup for 2026. 3 more spots for UEFA. 2 spots will go into a playoff. That's, I think, supposed to essentially replace the Confederations Cup in the summer before the World Cup. Oceania will get 1 up from a half spot. CONMEBOL will get 6 of 10 that will go up from 4.5, 4 plus the playoff spot. CONCACAF will go up to 6 as well from 3.5. Africa will go from 5 to 9, and Asia will go from 4.5 to 8. So you think about the teams that were right on the borderline here. Peru obviously would go, and then Colombia would go out of South America. Costa Rica would have an automatic spot. And then who are the next 2 in CONCACAF? In the Ocho.
Hang on just a second.
Because they would get to go. And Africa almost doubles. So like the 10 teams in their crazy format that's so unforgiving, almost all of them would go. But they're going to change their format. I don't know what they're going to change it to.
Panama, Jamaica would be 5 and 6.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're talking about here. So, only 3 more European teams. You can't have all of Europe go to the World Cup. But when you look at the additions from some of the others, you're going to get, New Zealand is going to be a team that you're going to want in your group. If you got this version of Jamaica, yeah, you're going to want to play them in your group. There's going to be some weaker teams that get there. There's not going to be as many stronger teams that were really close that get there because of the way they've reallocated it. But they have to do it this way because you can't just have the whole tournament be European teams. So that's what'll be happening going forward. I agree with you. I just don't think New Zealand has an opportunity to go anywhere else. They're going to have to manufacture competition, create a tournament, pay people to come play in New Zealand if you can do that. Otherwise, partner with somebody and create a tournament somewhere, or go on a South American tour and try to play Argentina and Peru and Chile in 3 games and see how you do. They're going to have to do something because they'll be going to the World Cup unless they lose to Tahiti, I think, like they did in the Oceania Confederation Cup or whatever. I'm not sure what it's called. The one time that I think it was Tahiti who went to the Confederations Cup because they upset New Zealand, and that didn't go so well for them. So New Zealand will be going to a World Cup almost every year, but what can they actually do with it? Probably not much.
And it's going to be 16 groups of 3 in the 48?
That's what it's supposed to be, yeah.
And it's literally just those group winners that go into the 16, and that's your elimination from there?
No. Hold on. Let me see if they've got that. No, there's going to be another knockout round in addition. It's not just the group winner should go, I believe, if I remember correctly. And I don't know if they've made that 48-team tournament, group stage, 16 groups of 3. 2 teams progress from each group.
Okay.
So that's
32.
Round of 32.
Okay.
So almost everybody will then go into a knockout, and then you go from there.
Okay. NYCFC / City Football Group question from Sam Williamson.
Mm-hmm.
Would City loan Alvarez to NYC if Toddy leaves and now that Holland is officially there?
I don't think so. All the talk that I'm seeing is that Julian Alvarez is going to be a Manchester City player. I think they'd be more likely to loan him back to River for the rest of the season if they wanted to do that. But I don't think they'd gain from that. I don't think he would gain from that. And City doesn't do things just to win trophies in different leagues outside of England. So I don't think anybody really wins from that move. I think he's actually going to be in Manchester and be competing for time.
And when I was thinking about it, I was thinking with all of the possible outs that Gabriel Jesus might be on his way out, Sterling and Gundogan, I think, are the 3 off the top of my head that are on their way out. Alvarez would have those opportunities with those spots that would be vacant.
Yeah, I think they're going to keep Gundogan. Jesus will be gone. Sterling's the one that's a little harder to tell. But, yeah, I think he'll have playing time in Manchester. And all the word that I'm hearing out of Argentina is that, he's not looking to get loaned out. He's looking to go to Manchester.
Byrne discussing Nations League and Europe. General consensus in Europe is that the players are all extremely tired after the season. Nobody's really motivated by this Nations League thing as opposed to a World Cup. So Byrne isn't really reading too much into this summer's results.
It's hard to read into it, but then, when you have teams that do play well, it's kind of like, okay, well, then why are they motivated and why wasn't the other one motivated? I mean, sure, you can say that, but then you're only going to have 2 games that you're motivated for to get ready for the tournament, and that's not going to help teams prepare either. So it's going to have an effect. Whether this says, oh, France isn't very good. No, France is good. But it's going to have an effect because they're not going to have the month-long preparation that you normally would. You're not going to have any preparation. Really. I mean, it's you're going to have one more break in September, and then games end in Europe, and a week later, games start in Qatar. So this, one way or another, will have an effect. Does it mean that like England and France are not good? No, it doesn't. But will they be their best at the World Cup? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. It changes everybody's way of thinking going into this tournament, in my opinion, as to who the favorites are, because they have no time to rebound and then take it more seriously. So it means something. I don't think you can say that it means nothing. At a minimum, it's wasted time in preparation. And the manager should have handled it better then. If some guys were exhausted and it was better for them to not be here in the summer and go and recharge, they shouldn't have been here. And that's on the manager for calling them in. So it will have an effect. What the effect is, probably won't know until the group stage is completed in Qatar.
Katie Weaver on USA and El Salvador. Definitely want to see newer players for for the men's national team. Katie's thinking that Bello specifically definitely needs to step it up a bit for the men's national team. with the very limited time that he's got left with chances to prove himself.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the last shot for him to earn a World Cup spot for sure. He might get one because of injuries or whatever, but if he plays well tonight, then he might earn it. There's not really much more time because September is not going to be about experimentation. It can't be. It's your last 2 games. You got to get you got to know what you have going into that, and you've got to really focus on your potential starting 11s and what your substitutions would be if losing or if winning, and how you would change the game from the bench. It can't be who's going to be number 23 on my roster. You're just not going to be able to make that decision at that point. So this is it. And guys who get the opportunity tonight that are on that bubble, this might be their last opportunity. I think it is their last opportunity. And Bella's on that bubble.
And mentioning the women's national team, she definitely wants to see newer players for the U.S. women's team. There's competition for this roster, and that's a good thing.
I think it's a great thing. I'm kind of blown away, and it's a little hard at times to follow like the conversation on the women's side around the national team, because it gets so personal about players and who people like and who people don't like, and it's weird. But Kristen Press not being called in is not the end of the world. If anything, it says you have a lot of great young talent. And if she's not called in here, it doesn't mean she wouldn't be called in for the World Cup next year. If she's one of the best players playing at that time, she'll get called in. If she's not, she won't. Like, you've got to see the next generation at some point. And the previous generation has to step out of the way, or they're just going to get passed. And that's the reality. I mean, Press isn't going to play anyway because she got injured. But, people have really like blown up about, she wasn't going to be called in regardless. Look, Trinity Rodman should be called in. Trinity Rodman could be the best player in the world in the next couple of years. She needs to get there. Like, she's got to play. And if that means for this qualifying tournament, if you're thinking about what your roster is going to be, and I could take Kristen Press, who I know what she is. I know what she's done. She's a very good player, and I know what she can deliver if called upon. Or I can play Trinity Rodman in every game, and I can find out who she is and find out what she can be. I got to do the latter. And it's not personal. It's not personal anymore. It's not politics. It's literally what is best for the team and the program going forward. And you have to bring the young talent through, and you have to reward players for playing well at their club. And Press, again, if she recovers from the knee injury, if Tobin Heath recovers, if Megan Rapinoe keeps her spot, if Alex Morgan keeps their spot, they'll be there at the World Cup. If they don't, hey, there's a whole new generation that wants that playing time instead, and they're going to get it, according to Vlatko, if they're playing well.
Because you can't be reactionary when it comes to the rest of the world. The rest of the world has caught up with you, and you can't hang on to those older players too long. And then all of a sudden there's that whiplash of, oh crap, everybody's, either up with us or passing us by. And we've really got to work on the younger players now. You've got to gradually work them in so you don't get caught flat-footed with the older players falling off that cliff that we talk about when it comes to their abilities. You've got to have this build up and give these younger players those chances so they can be a part of what you're looking to do to continue your superiority in the women's game.
I think you're mixing a couple of my talking points here, John. Like the rest of the world catching up with the U.S. on the women's side has nothing to do with playing older players or not playing older players. It has zero to do with that, because Kristen Press is a great player in the world. That is a long-term conversation about development and bringing young players through at the pro level and the club level and all that. That's a bigger picture. Coaching's got to get better. It's got to be broader than rely on athletes in the women's game. And there's too much of that in the U.S. Got to get more technical. It's got to get more tactical. It's got to improve. The rest of the world is caught up in that. Keeping older players around is just an issue we have in any team and any gender. It has nothing to do with the situation in the women's game worldwide. If you hold on to the previous generation too long, you can play players who are not able to keep up with the pace of play, but you can also prevent that young generation from becoming the next generation, and you can lose a generation. And they can't afford to do that, not with the young talent coming through. It's time. And it's time for them to get their shot. And they're playing. Look, it's the CONCACAF W Championship. No offense to the rest of CONCACAF, but the U.S. and Canada should be expected to be in the final. No questions asked. And this is an opportunity where Christian Press doesn't need to go play in this. Christian Press doesn't need to be on this team. It's not that big of a deal if you have all these young players coming through and you need to see them. Mallory Pugh, look, she was supposed to be the next thing, and she didn't quite get there. She's bounced back, and she deserves the opportunity. Trinity Rodman, Ashley Hatch, absolutely deserve the opportunity. So it's not purely like the rest of the world will catch you if you play old players. No, this happens on every team. You can go through it with the Men's World Cup coming up, that you're going to have these situations come up with teams. They're going to have to make some decisions. When you get to the World Cup, you take your best team, no question, you play them. You're not worried about building at the World Cup. You're worried about winning the World Cup. In this tournament, where the U.S. could take a C team and qualify for the World Cup and qualify for the next Olympics, you got to see some of that next generation. And you do need to ask, can Alex Morgan be part of that? I've said that I thought she could be. I've liked how she's changed her game. It's not purely an athletic game anymore. She's a good number 9 who brings others into the game. Can she continue to evolve as she gets older? Okay, she might be the one who facilitates and brings a lot out of everybody else around. I need to see that here with the young generation, but I got to see the young generation. If Press is back to being one of the best players in the pool after her injury, if she can recover and do that, then she'll go to the World Cup. If she's not, she won't. It's that simple.
3 questions left on the board. One is a USL Championship question from what we talked about with Kobe Henry. One is with the 48-team World Cup and wanting to know if something has been figured out with tiebreakers. And the third is about tonight. Where do you want to go first?
You call it. Doesn't matter.
Okay, we'll go in order. Byrne was wondering what Joshua Winder from Lou City could fetch. He looked like the real deal when they played against the Twos.
Yeah, I don't know on prices. It's really hard to say where people rate how much they're going to pay for a USL Championship player. I agree with you. I like Winder. I think he is a first division talent somewhere. If I'm an MLS club, I'm bringing him in. I'm paying whatever I got to pay Louisville and bringing him in because he's really good. And I love that we're starting to see teenagers developed by USL Championship clubs, and we'll see it from USL League One as well. That's the next step. And I think when we get into this conversation about growing the grassroots side of it and smaller clubs and all of that, that has to be what these clubs do. They have to develop young talent in their areas. Because if you want the most transformational thing for the game in the United States at the pro level that can change U.S. soccer forever, it's to where it's not just the MLS teams developing talent, and honestly, not just some of the MLS teams developing talent. It's a kid in Louisville who wouldn't be in an MLS academy turning into a top pro. It's a kid in Omaha. It's a kid in El Paso. It's a kid in those places that does not have an MLS academy nearby. They can't make the drive to Dallas or Houston or Kansas City or wherever. They can't do it. The family can't relocate. And in the past, that player had a low ceiling put on them because that was just the ability that they had to get. They'd probably have to hope to get noticed. They might have to make a jump to go to a European academy before they're mature enough to handle it, which that happened a ton. They might have to go on to college and hope to get drafted by a team that'll give them an opportunity, but then they don't progress the way that they should. They don't develop into what they should. USL Championship teams developing talent, being willing to sell it, that is the game changer. USL League 1, 2, everything below that, it's the game changer because then it doesn't limit where top players can come from. Right now, there are limitations. If you are born in certain parts of the country, even some cities, if you're born in certain parts of the city, but if you're born in certain parts of the country, you do not have the same opportunity to become a professional soccer player. just a fact. And the more places that you have that opportunity, the better the game will be across the country. And Winder's a big part of that. I think Louisville's done a great job. And Louisville as a club on the men's and the women's side, absolutely great job. One of the best clubs in the country. And I hope they continue it.
Field of 48 question from a World Cup from Thomas Jewin. He says, did they ever decide how they're going to handle the tiebreakers in those 3-team groups? Any ideas?
Let me look and see if they said. I don't remember seeing it. I would guess it's about the same. Yeah, I don't see anything specifically about the tiebreaker. So I would guess at this point it would be the same as it's been. It will create some issues because you won't have the last group games because they're not played at the same time, because there's not 2 group games played at the same time. So that you will have some issues potentially of a team going into their last game knowing all they need is a draw, or knowing that they're already through and not playing. These kinds of things that could come up. It has not been passed yet. So I don't know how far they are in the formal rules like that. But my guess right now is it'd be the same as it's been before.
Last question on the board comes from Sam Williamson. He wants to know, what would your starting 11 be tonight?
Well, like I said, I would want to use this as an opportunity to see what the team can be over the next 3 games without Thiago Almada. So my starting 11, and this is without knowing all of the availability questions, but if I'm only going to go 45, I would assume that everybody can do that. It would be backline of Wiley, Campbell, Franco, Lennon, Osechu, and Ibarra. It would be then the front 4, Joseph up top. It'd be Cisneros, Moreno, and Araujo. I'd like to see that group together for a period of time. Need to see Sosa and see where he's at. That would be the other question. But I would want to see that 11 for a couple of reasons. And goalkeeper, I mean, if you're going to add somebody, you're going to add somebody in July. So right now, I still think Shuttleworth gives you your best choice. I don't think Rocco's done enough with Atlanta United too, and it's not because he gave up a bunch of goals. You got to look at who was playing in front of him and the way the team was playing. I think Rocco made some plays, but I think Shuttleworth probably gives you the steadiest hand. Got to get his confidence back, because you're going to have games before you can add anybody in July, and you've got to get something out of those. So I would play him. I would want to see Campbell and Franco, because I still think that potentially that makes it a little more comfortable to play the high line that Atlanta wants to play. Campbell has more range than DeJohn, but DeJohn's got more pace than he gets credit for. So it's not a huge difference, but Campbell would have gotten an opportunity if he was healthy. I'd like to see him with Franco now. And I want to see Cisneros on the wing, because one of my big questions with Joseph coming back into the team was how the effectiveness of the press might change, because that's not Joseph's strength. He has improved in that, and the numbers back it up. And Gonzalo Pineda has said this to us as well. But the numbers back it up. Joseph has been more active in the press this year when he's played than in previous years. He's been more active with his pressures in the attacking third. Cisneros is on another level with that. So if you have Cisneros, even if he's coming from the wing, you have Cisneros and Araujo from wide positions who are both outstanding pressing the ball. Joseph, who is better than you think, and Marcelino floating underneath, who can pick up the scraps and create opportunities. I think that can be really effective. But I need to see Cisneros in that position. Can he give you everything you need from the wing? That's what I would want to see. And in second half or subs when you make them, I mean, Almada's going to play. You know, you want to see some of the kids. I want to see Noah Cobb for a good 45 minutes if possible. I want to see some of the other guys who could be part of this. Mertz and McFadden, you know, if you can get if you can get Mertz with Almada, you know, how does that look? I'd like to see that. Can Mertz hang at that level? I think he can. I think Mertz's game gets better the better players he's around, but I'd like to see that. You know, does a David Mejia or a Johnny Fortune or Eric Centeno, you know, do those guys get an opportunity tonight? Those are all guys under pro deals. They could be part of it. Would love to see that. So we'll see what it goes from there. But my 11 would be Wiley, Campbell, Franco, Lennon, Ibarra, Hosechu, Cisneros on the left, Moreno in the middle, Araujo on the right, Joseph up top.
And folks have been mentioning their starting 11s and such, but there was a name that popped up that I wanted to get an update on. Machope Chol. What's the latest on Machope and his recovery? Anything?
I mean, you've heard everything I've heard. He's been training, but I don't know what kind of minutes he would give. So he's not going to come straight back into the starting team. My guess is ultimately he plays some games with Atlanta United too, because you got to get him going again, because he basically all the work in preseason was washed away because of the long-term injury. So I would guess that he could have a cameo tonight, but most importantly down the road is he probably needs a good couple of weeks with Atlanta United too, of getting some games and getting minutes and knocking the rest off.
Broadcast plans for tonight?
92.90 game, Odyssey app, Atlanta United app, 7 o'clock, Five Stripes countdown, 7:38 kickoff is what we've been told. Full-time report for an hour after that. We'll talk about the game. We'll look ahead to Miami. I think same thing with TV, except 30 minutes of post-game on TV. Brad Kazan's going to be on TV. That'll be fun. And I'm just looking forward to a fun game. Honestly, I'm just looking forward to a fun one. There's no reason for the teams to be defensive. Pachuca put up 4 on Austin on Saturday. It's a team that can score goals. Ibanez was one of the leading scorers in the Liga MX. Clausura, he was the leading scorer in the postseason. They're going to go for it. Atlanta's going to go for it because that's how they play. So it should be a really fun night. Hopefully we see you in the building at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. If there's anybody out there, I actually had a listener send me a pair of tickets this morning who's not going to be able to make it. If there's anybody out there who does not ordinarily get to go to games and has an opportunity to go tonight, let me know. Shoot me a message. I got a couple tickets that I can send your way. Hopefully it is a good, fun vibe tonight. I think there will be a good number of Pachuca fans there as well. Not like Club America, but a fun celebration of the game tonight, a fun celebration of talented young players and player development. And I think it'll be two teams that'll play very open. I think it'll be a really fun night. So hopefully we'll see you in the building. If you can't make it, you can listen on the radio or watch on TV, and we'll talk about it tomorrow morning on the show at 9:05. Y'all have a good rest of the day. Hopefully we'll see you at the Benz later. Mucho plati, y'all.
Mucho plati, y'all.